You can use many different kinds of cords to make these bracelets, but two of my favorite cords to use are cotton cord and nylon cord. This is actually a nylon crochet thread. I bought it at Walmart for $4. I found it in the bead aisle, which was right near the crochet stuff. So it says 100% nylon crochet thread, and there's 150 yards on it. So I'll be able to make several bracelets out of this one spool. So what's the best about the nylon cord is that it's meltable. So instead of having crazy knots in your bracelet, what you do is you tie your knots, your square knots, and you pull your last knot tight, you cut the cords, and you leave just a little bit left, and you burn it with either a lighter or a thread burner. I don't have a thread burner, so I have to use a lighter. And you press it in, and what it does is it melts all the fibers together, so it's not going to come undone. I also did the same right here. You could see where it's just a little bit shiny, where I had finished it off. So this style bracelet really works best with a nylon cord because it's meltable. A lot of people do this style of a bracelet with a leather cord and they glue the ends, but sometimes it'll come undone. And the reason why is because the glue, or the clear nail polish, you can also use that, doesn't absorb that well into the leather. So with cords like the nylon cord and the cotton cord, the glue absorbs into the material and really bonds it together. So to finish off the knots with the cord we're tying the knots with, you're going to cut a second cord 30 inches long, and that's going to be the core cord of our bracelet that we're going to put the buttons on, and we're also going to stretch it out over our loom. You're going to need 11 to 12 buttons, so 12 buttons is an 8-inch bracelet, and 11 is like a 7 to 7.5 inch bracelet. Now if you're using a nylon cord, you're going to have to use the lighter to melt the ends. So I have my knot just at this end here. So I cut my 4 cords off, I melted it, I pressed it in, and then I actually spun the lighter around this big knot here to really bond it together. If you're using a cotton cord, which is actually what I'm going to be using, so this is made with nylon cord, but in the video I'm going to make this same bracelet with a cotton cord. If you're using the cotton cord, you'll need the clear nail polish to seal the ends and seal the knots. So that's all you're going to need for this style. So I'm going to show you how to seal the ends of the cotton cord with the clear nail polish, so it's a fine point, so you'll be able to pass through small beads and buttons. So dip your nail polish, wipe one side off, and I'm going to do about 1/2 inch of my cord and just rub the clear nail polish on there. Now don't let it dry like this. Take your fingers and wipe it on the cord and roll it. Doing this is compacting the cord so it's thinner. So see, it's getting a little bit thinner there. And if you just left the clear nail polish on, it's actually going to be thicker than you want it to be. So put it on and roll it between your fingers, and it dries pretty fast. So once you do that, just set it to the side and let it harden. So that's how you put the clear nail polish on the. So go ahead and lay your buttons out with your beads if you're using beads in the pattern that you want to do it. Now we're going to take the cord that's 30 inches long, make sure that you have your ends sealed, and what we're going to do is we're going to put our buttons on. Now I found that 4-hole buttons and 2-hole buttons go on differently for this design, so I'm going to show you how to do both ways. So we have 2 cords in our core in the center of our bracelet. Now with the 4-hole button, I'm going to pick up the button we want for our clasp. So I'm going to use this pearly one here. At this end I did the purple one for our clasp. So this is the first button we're going to pick up, and what we're going to do is take our ends and put them to the bottom of the button diagonal from each other. So not across, diagonal. We're going to pull them through the top, make sure they're even, and slide this button all the way down. Then we're going to take one of the cords, and I'm going to go through this hole, or I could go through the other hole, it doesn't matter. I'm going to take this cord and go down through this hole, pull out, pull your cords tight, make sure your ends are even, and this is what it looks like on the bottom, and this is the top. So I'm doing straight stripes of the thread on the top of my button. Now we have to tie the knot, which is very easy. I'm just going to go like this and put the button through the knot, and push the knot up toward the button like this, and go higher right there. That's how you want it to look. You do want a little space right there, because that's where we're going to put our hook on our loom to keep this on our loom. So the next thing, so I went ahead and finished putting all my buttons on. Make sure that all your buttons are facing up like this in the same direction. Now I have to take and put my bracelet on my loom. If you haven't already made my loom, I have a tutorial telling how I made it. I'll leave a link for that tutorial in the description bar below this video, and there you'll find a video of me telling you how I made this loom. So I have a hook right here, and I'm going to take and attach this bracelet to the hook. So right here is that loop I made. So I'm just gonna put that through that little loop right there. Stretch my bracelet over the top so that all the buttons are laying up. And then down here, I'm going to tie a knot around this screw. So I'm just going to go like that. Tie it here. Don't tie it real tight. You do need this to be movable, because we're going to be sliding the buttons up and down. So tie it to where it's like that. And then tie another knot like this. And instead of tying it on the back, go to the front side. And sometimes when I have to take it off the loom, I'll just take tweezers and pick the knot out, so it's easier to come undone. So now we're ready to tie our square knots, and what I'm doing is I'm taking my 7-foot cord that I already cut, and I'm going to take one string and put it under the bracelet, put my ends together. Now I have to go out of camera view because I have 7 feet of cord here, so try to find center of the cord. Now we're going to tie a knot. So there's about center. I'm going to take and pass my cord under like that. So now I have a knot here. I'm just going to bring this down and check to make sure that my ends are even, and they're not even, so I have to pull on one side. So put them together, slide my fingers down, undo this knot that's already loose. Okay, now it's even, and now I could slowly slide that knot down. Okay, now it should be even. I'm going to check again, and it's even. Okay, so here's my first knot. I'm going to zoom in. It's a little hard to see. So here's my first knot. I'm going to slide that up to the button. Now that's the center bracelet and through this loop. This is my first knot. Now for my second knot, I'm going to take my left cord, lie it over top of the bracelet, take my right cord over this left cord, go under the bracelet and through this loop. Tie the knot. So now I have 2 knots. I'm going to take my right cord, lie it over top of my bracelet, take my left, go over the right cord, under the bracelet, and through this loop. Pull the knot up, and it's sliding away from my button, so I'm just gonna push that up in place. Now I have to tie a left knot, so I'm going to take my left cord, lie over top of the bracelet, take my right cord, go over the left cord, under the bracelet, and through this loop, and slide my knot up. I now have 4 knots, and how I tell that is I can count these lines right here. Right here is the knot I tied to attach it to the warp cord. Then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 knots. So now I have to tie 2 more knots, and the last knot I tied was the left knot. And you could tell the last knot you tied. If you forget the last knot you tied, you can tell by looking at it, because you could see that this one over here, the left comes up and over, and it goes through the right cord. So that's how you can tell if you leave this bracelet and you go do something, you come back. That's how you could tell. If you forget, you remember you could flip it over and you can count the cords in the middle. So now I'm going to slide up my next button and continue knotting. And I think I showed you how to do it enough times for you to do this by your own now. If you have any problems, just rewind the video and watch what I did again. So I'm going to keep going till I get all the way to the end of my bracelet here, and I'll show you how to finish it off. So I finished tying. Before you tie this knot, you might notice that your bracelet seems a little bunched up because of the button. So what I do is I pull it and it stretches it out and it fixes the problem. So now we have to tie our knot down here, and I'm going to cut my 2 cords here the same length, so they're kind of like that, so those aren't so long. And now I could tie my knot. So I'm going to pull my cord flat like this. I'm going to make a loop. I'm going to take my cord and go through it, all 4. Just like this. Don't pull it real tight because we have to make sure our button is going to pass through it. So I have to pull it this way, make it bigger. So there's 4 cords, and I pass my button through the center, and it's just right. So what I have to do is get a pair of pliers, which I forgot. I'm using nylon pliers, but you can use chain nose or bent nose pliers, and since this is right where we need it to be, we have to tighten these super tight. So I'm going to take 1 cord at a time and pull on it. Hold the knot in between your fingers, just like this. Make sure it still fits. It does. So pull each cord very tight. And there you go, there's your knot. If you want, you can put clear nail polish on it, and I usually do. Something else you could do to make this a little bit fancy, I did this in my 5-row wrap bracelet, is before you cut these cords, you could put beads on these cords and then tie a knot after the bead. That just makes it a little bit fancier. And you could do beads like seed beads or whatever, so if you want, you could go ahead, look through your beads, and see if you have any beads that will match